Good morning and welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of San Antonio. My name is Emmanuel Garrido.
And my name is Esperanza Garza-Danweber. One of the joys and blessings of our church is the meeting and building of community. We honor that today by sharing with you a service made by members of San Antonio Gente engaged in Unitarian Universalism, Sage UU. To begin, let's acknowledge this geographic place where we are currently located, the home of and traditional lands of the Tonkawa and Payeya peoples of the Coeltecan band, original and indigenous stewards of this land. On that land is now located San Antonio, Texas, claimed as part of the United States of America.
At our church, we believe and act in a universal love that binds us in mutual care, affection, and work for justice. Our faith is all-inclusive, and all means all. If you're new to us or visiting for the first time today, we welcome you and ask you to sign in on the chat stream. We'd like to get to know you and follow up with you. Wherever you are on your life's journey, we hope you will find your place with us.
Private property, but on the other side it didn't say nothing. Now that side was made for you and me. In the squares of the city, in the shadow of the steeple, near the relief office, I see my people, and some are grumbling and some are wondering if this land's still made for you and me. Nadie en el mundo que puede pararme por el camino de libertad. No existe nadie que pueda hacerme al volver. Esa tierra es para ti, para mí. Nobody living can ever stop me as I go walking that freedom highway. Nobody living can ever make me turn back. This land was made for you and me. Esta tierra es tuya, esta tierra es mía. Desde el horizonte hasta el otro río, desde las montañas, cosas ríos y valles, son nuestras todas las Américas. This land was made for you and me.
Estas palabras, ligeramente adaptadas, fueron escritas por el Reverend Steve Dick, ex-director ejecutivo de ICUU, en honor a su vida y a su entregada dedicación a nuestra comunidad global espiritual.
La luz del sol no disipa las sombras que han caído sobre la humanidad. Encendemos una vez más nuestro cáliz para fortalecer un espíritu de optimismo radical, sabiendo que nos corresponde vivir lo que es importante para disipar a quienes nos quieren dividir. Todas las cosas estarán bien si las hacemos bien. Que nuestras comunidades religiosas y libres incorporen las correctas relaciones que desesperadamente nuestro mundo necesita. These words, slightly adapted, were written by Reverend Steve Dick, former executive director of the ICUU. They are offered here in honor of his life and his passionate dedication to our global faith community.
The light of the sun does not lift the shadows that have fallen on humanity the world over. We relight our chalice flame to reignite a spirit of radical optimism, knowing it takes us all, living what matters, to dispel those who would divide us. All manner of things will be well if we make them well. May our free religious communities embody the right relationships our world so desperately needs.
We are called as Unitarian Universalists to build a beloved community where all are welcome and united by our shared values, including the acceptance of each other as unique and sacred beings. We strive to open the doors to all in need of shelter and invite each other to join in our community with grace, forgiveness, and love, embracing our many differences. These values are embodied in our community covenant, which binds us together as a community. Let us take this time to renew this commitment to living together in harmony, as this week we recite our covenant together in Spanish. The words will be written on the screen in both languages. El amor es la doctrina de esta iglesia. Su sacramento es la búsqueda de la verdad y su oración es el servicio. Convivir en paz, buscar sabiduría en libertad, dar a la humanidad nuestro servicio fraternal, para que todas las almas crezcan en armonía con la divinidad. Así pactamos el uno con el otro.
As a way for us to connect as a community, you are invited to share a joyful event, a sorrow, or a concern by entering it onto the chat stream. Please let us know what's in your heart, for ours is a welcoming community where we seek connection, a spiritual community where we become fully alive. Ours is a caring community where our joys are amplified, a caring community where our sorrows are heard and held in compassion. At this time of uncertainty, may we listen more deeply and grow more involved with and connected to each other. Let us join in silent meditation as we write our joys and sorrows on the chat stream while Jaime plays the meditation music. Take a deep cleansing breath and exhale. For all our joys, sorrows, and concerns, may we feel empathy and compassion. For all that is unspoken, may the caring of our community offer a space of deep kindness, loving, and just action. And may the sharing we have done today fill our hearts until we meet again.
That's Not Fair, Emma Tenayuca's Struggle for Justice, adapted from the book written by Carmen Tafoya and Cheryl Tenayuca. In 1925, a little girl named Emma lived with her abuelito, her grandfather, and on Sunday afternoons they would walk around the park. This Sunday, they walked to where a man was speaking. By his side, his wife held a baby, and by her side, there were 6 children lined up like stair steps. The man asked the crowd,
"How will I feed my family? We worked all summer picking crops, but when it came time to get our pay, the farmer chased us away with a gun. Now we have no food and no place to stay."
Her abuelito saw a flash of lightning in Emma's dark eyes as she whispered,
"That's not fair."
Later, they saw a singer so old she could hardly walk, but she cradled a guitar in her arms and sang. The words sounded so beautiful. Emma smiled as she repeated the words to herself.
"Son, you share your light equally with everyone. You should teach my boss to be just like you."
After the walk, Emma was still humming the song as Abuelito poured hot chocolate into Emma's favorite cup. They talked about what they had seen, families that did not have enough to eat, people working long hours in dirty factories, people who lived in small shacks while others lived in handsome houses.
It's not fair, abuelito.
Sometimes things are not fair. But still, each one of us can usually do something about it, even if it's just a little thing.
Years passed and Emma grew. All around her there was hunger, misery, and poverty. The poorest of all the workers were pecan shellers. Many of them were only paid 4 cents for their best hour of work. Most of them were Mexican American. Most were women. Some were children. Emma began to speak to others about things that were not fair. She spoke in public parks and in the market where the farmers sold their vegetables. When she spoke, her dark eyes flashed, and her voice was full of courage and caring. People listened, and her words touched their hearts, sparking hope as bright as lightning in the dark night sky. But their bosses would not listen. They wanted to pay the workers as little as they could. When she was 21 years old, the bosses dropped the pecan shellers' pay even lower. Now they could barely make 3 cents for an hour of work. The workers feared their families would starve to death. Emma was angry. She saw so many people go to work when it was still dark and not come home again until late at night. She saw owners work 1 or 2 hours a day. They had so much money they could throw away food that the workers wished they could give their children. Emma knew it was not fair. When the pecan shellers asked her for help, she knew just what to do.
You must all stop working until the owners listen to you. We will make a soup kitchen to feed your families. If we all help each other, we can win.
And 12,000 pecan shellers listened to her call for a strike. For nearly 2 months, the businesses made no money. Finally, the owners were forced to raise the workers' pay. It was only one victory, but the story of the pecan shellers appeared in newspapers all across the country. Those who had been powerless had won against unfairness. People everywhere celebrated. They loved Emma for what she had done. She had given them a voice and given them hope. Tomorrow would be brighter for everyone.
And that, at last, was fair.
It is now time for the offertory. The offering is a sacrament of the Free Church. It is supported by the voluntary generosity of all who join us. You may make an offering on our online giving portal through the link on the screen while we enjoy our musical anthem, Chicano, by Doc Psalm, performed by Jaime Ramirez on guitar, and accordion with vocals by Esperanza Garza-Danweber. We now give a prayer of thanks for all the offerings we received today. Commitment to a congregation comes in many forms, and may we each be blessed by giving and receiving what is needed each day.
Brown Voice by Moon Luna Sanchez Brand. For my church family. This brown voice is a legacy. Not a legacy to some uppity university detached from the sweet sweat of my joy-seeking, back-breaking, self-healing DNA. This brown voice is a legacy to the movement, el movimiento, and to those who chose to pathfind so that this Chicana could stand before a predominantly white congregation in Central Texas and say, "Listen to me. And what I say is going to hurt like salty cuts. We all need some salt to live. And it encourages flavor. So, por favor, hang in there with me. And in the end, I will ask you to dance, and we will laugh and hold hands and conjure a future that we may be proud of together." The demand for the Chicano movement, birthed out of the overwhelming symptoms of chronic fatigue engendered from the virus of being shamed, pained, and devalued. Dirty Mexican, wetback, lazy Mexican, beaner. Yes, you do have excellent grades, but a better fit for you will be vocational school. Don't you dare speak your Espanol around here, or no schooling or voting for you. Don't you complain about them pesticides. Your brown skin can take it. What? How dare you not want to work more for less? What? Is that a brown voice I hear? Well, here's a Juan Crow law to shut you up, and don't you cry about it. You don't deserve to be in our history books. Yield, conform, accommodate, integrate and segregate, comply. No, 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 no more. Walk out. Walk out of that ignorant and vulgar school who chose to lower its expectations and dismiss the brightness of the beautiful brown brain as lesser and undeserving. All sick in the head lies of cultural, social manipulation. Lead. Lead yourself and others to not be a powerless, submissive echo. Be a bionic bone in your back, demanding with pluck and dignity a feast of the supreme truth of what is humanity. Protest. Protest an eruption of community and strength against the racist injustice that has vomited down the brown back and coiled up and around the necks of the ancestors, swaying from the tallest pecan tree. Learn. Learn to acknowledge and shield your mind, body, spirit from the generations of pounding self-prejudice and stand with glory in the truth of your creative, ingenious, epic origin. Create. Create love and honor for the magnificent brownness that was and is fueled by the recreation story of resistance, defiance, self-identifying, self-given name of Chicana, Chicano, Chicanx. Now, we take a deep breath of gratitude. Gratitude for all the bodily fluids that have dripped, spilled, gushed for us. We must never dishonor or neglect the power of the sacrifice or forget that the beautiful work must always be projected, MacGyvered, and fed to our young. Si se puede, vive el movimiento, adelante.
De colores se visten los campos en la primavera. De colores son los pajaritos que vienen de afuera. De colores es el arco iris que vemos lucir. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Canta el gallo con el kiri, 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 kiri. La gallina con el cara, 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 cara. Los pollitos con el pío, 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 pío. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Woo!
Hello, my name is Moon Luna Sanchez Brand. I've been a member of this church for 18 years, and I'm a proud Chicana. Every chance I get, you'll find me dropping Chicana-isms everywhere and on everyone. But I'm embarrassed to admit that this Chicana pride did not resonate with me until I was well into adulthood. I had to learn and teach myself about the history, struggles, and strength of my people. In school, public and private, I did not experience any form of positive reinforcement for brown pride. In fact, it was inconspicuously quite the opposite. The Chicano Movement, el movimiento, of the 60s and 70s was my first illuminating re-education. This isn't to say there hadn't been a fight for equal rights for Spanish-speaking Americans and their descendants before this time. It's just that this movement emboldened brown power. And people needed time to come to terms with their cognitive dissonance that need to fight, because for generations, people of color had to keep their head down, their eyes low, and do everything they could to take up as little space as possible, so to protect themselves and their family from the overreach and pounding fear of racism. Overall, the Chicano movement did much more than change laws and working conditions for Spanish-speaking workers and students. It amplified the brown voice and demanded a place at the table. And it made many aware of how serious the discrimination and damaging and horrifying effects of Juan Crow laws. Although, on many levels, this racism continues to breathe nightmares into our communities today. In the words of Dolores Huerta, the work is not done. Dolores is 91 years old, and she's still out there encouraging our young folks to get out and do the work. That's incredible. I was in first grade in the early 70s. I wasn't aware of this cultural revolution. I was a kid. I attended St. Teresa's Academy. It's a Catholic school on the south side of San Antonio. I remember being so excited about going to a new school. And I liked it for the most part, even though I had a very strict teacher, Sister Mary Agnes. She wasn't quite right. From the start of my first grade year, almost every day, Sister Mary Agnes would call a group of kids to sit around her desk so that she would practice reading with them. I noticed that the kids she called were white students. Those first months of first grade, I was never called to be part of the reading circle. And after a few months of that, in my first grade mind, I distinctly remember thinking, of course they get to read. They're white. They get to have more than me. And the other students that were with me sitting at our desk quietly coloring, they aren't white either. So it made sense in a sticky, warped, confining, damaging sort of way. My peers and I, the coloring crew, we never said anything, not even to each other. It was as if we were ashamed to admit being lesser, and that the mere discussion of it would give it light. Even more shocking is that Sister Mary Agnes was a Mexican American. In retrospect, that is when the sickness of self-prejudice for me as a brown kid started to creep in. Now, I could talk more about bias acts against my progress, but I don't wanna. I've worked too hard to be where I am, and I just don't want to give it any energy. But I do want to convey some understanding that more often than not, people of color are working to be okay. On some level, we're always employing something within us to be okay. In our speech, in our bodies, skin color, intellect, creativity, ideas. All of this working to be okay takes a lot of cognitive resources that can be so taxing. And yes, I know some people want us to get over it already. No. We need to individually take the time to unpack the trauma, the discomfort, the injustice, the disconnect, the guilt. Whether it was a direct experience or that of our ancestors. Please understand, I am speaking to both sides, the oppressed and the oppressor. White guilt needs to be unpacked and learned from as well. Only then may we present ourselves fully and completely to each other. I think the need for this healing process is pretty universal. This church of mine and yours has made space for this unpacking to evolve, whether we choose to take advantage of it or not. the space is there. Through our connections with each other, through our SAGE group, our RE classes, our book studies, through our discussions and ventures rooted in our principles of inherent worth, justice, equity. And there's something golden about that eighth principle. Principle of working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions and accountability to dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. Oof, that's a doozy. It's hard not to love it. That's not to say there isn't room for improvement. Improvement is a constant for positive growth in any institution. I am grateful to this institution, the First Unitarian Universalist Church of San Antonio, for providing this space to unpack and be okay. I thank you for your time today. Know that I am always wishing all of you well and happy.
No nos moverán. No nos moverán como un árbol firme junto al río. No nos moverán. Firmas estaremos, no nos moverán. Firmas estaremos, no nos moverán como un árbol firme junto al río, no nos moverán. Peleamos por justicia, no nos moverán. Peleamos por justicia, no nos moverán como un árbol firme junto al río, no nos moverán. Unidos en la vida, no nos moverán. Unidos en la vida, no nos moverán como un árbol firme junto al río, no nos moverán, no nos moverán.
While you step forward and beyond, take my hand so that we may dance and laugh and fight for what our heart, mind, and body tells us is right. You are not alone. We belong to each other, united by our beliefs, united by our church. Go in peace. Blessed be. Que le vaya bien. Adelante.
Please enjoy our postlude while you share any final thoughts on the chat stream. For those of you willing and able, you are invited to join us on Zoom for coffee hour to pop in for a quick hello or stay for discussion. You can find the link in the chat. To all, please go forward, fortified by the power of our shared experience here today.